The sun was setting over the quiet little town of Brookhaven as Liam parked his car outside the local tailor. His wedding was 2 days away, and he needed to pick up his suit for the big day. Excitement and nerves coursed through him as he stepped inside the shop, greeted by the familiar scent of fabric and cedarwood. "Liam! Just in time," the tailor, Mr. Yates, said with a grin, pulling out a sleek navy blue suit. "This will make you look like a true gentleman for your big moment." "Thanks, Mr. Yates," Liam replied, running his fingers over the smooth fabric. "Can't believe the day is almost here." The older man chuckled. "You've got yourself a fine lady in Mia. You two will make a beautiful couple." Liam smiled warmly, thinking of his fiancée. They'd been together for 3 years, and he felt like the luckiest man alive. But as Liam left the shop and headed toward his car, a voice called out behind him. "Liam, wait!" He turned to see Ava, Mia's childhood best friend, rushing toward him. Her face was pale, and her expression was one of hesitation mixed with urgency. "What's up, Ava?" Liam asked, surprised by her sudden appearance. Ava hesitated, looking around to ensure no one else was nearby. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "It's about Mia." Liam frowned, his stomach tightening. "What about her?" Ava's eyes darted to the ground, and she wrung her hands nervously. "I don't know how to say this, but she's been lying to you. There's something you need to know before the wedding." The weight of her words hit him like a ton of bricks. "Lying? About what?" he asked, his voice tinged with both confusion and dread. Ava sighed deeply, her voice trembling. "Mia's been seeing someone else. I didn't want to believe it, but I've seen it with my own eyes. She's been meeting up with a guy named Jason." Liam's heart sank. Jason was Mia's coworker, someone she had mentioned casually but never in a way that raised suspicion. "You're mistaken," Liam said, shaking his head. "Mia would never do that." "I wish I were wrong," Ava said sadly. "But she doesn't know I saw her. Last night, she was at the Orchid Hotel with him. I followed them after work because I had a feeling something was off." Liam felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. "You're sure about this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ava nodded. "I wouldn't come to you with something like this unless I was absolutely certain. You deserve to know the truth, Liam." His world tilted as he stood there, struggling to process what he'd just heard. Part of him wanted to confront Mia immediately, to demand answers. But another part of him needed proof. "Thank you, Ava," he said finally, his voice hollow. "I'll handle it from here." That night, Liam sat alone in his living room, scrolling through the messages on his phone. He replayed every interaction he'd had with Mia over the past few weeks, searching for signs he might have missed. Her late nights at work, the mysterious phone call she brushed off as wedding planning details, the distant look in her eyes whenever he talked about their future. The pieces began to fall into place, and the picture they formed was devastating. Liam barely slept that night, his thoughts racing as he grappled with Ava's revelation. He needed proof, something undeniable to confront Mia with. His gut told him she would deny everything unless he had irrefutable evidence. The next morning, Liam called in sick to work and drove to the Orchid Hotel. The polished lobby smelled faintly of lavender, and the concierge greeted him with a professional smile. "Good morning, sir. How can I assist you?" Liam hesitated for a moment, then forced a casual tone. "I'm trying to track down some receipts for a stay my fiancée and I had here recently. We're organizing our wedding expenses, and I think we might have misplaced them." The concierge nodded. "Of course, sir. May I have the dates and your fiancé's name?" Liam recited the dates Ava had mentioned and gave Mia's name. The concierge tapped away at her keyboard before frowning slightly. I see a reservation under that name, but there's no record of a second guest registered to the room. Would you like a printout of the charges? Yes, please, Liam said, his heart pounding. The concierge handed him the receipt, and his stomach dropped as he scanned the charges. Dinner for two at the hotel's restaurant. Champagne service to the room. The name on the receipt confirmed his worst fears, Jason Miller. Liam sat in his car for a long time, staring at the receipt. His hands trembled as anger and heartbreak swirled inside him. He thought about calling Mia right then, but something held him back. He needed to confront her face to face, to see her reaction when she realized her lies had unraveled. On his way home, Liam stopped at a local electronics store and bought a small audio recorder. If Mia denied everything, he wanted her confession recorded as proof. That evening, Liam acted as though everything was normal. Mia arrived at his apartment, her face lighting up with a smile. "Hey, babe," she said, leaning in to kiss him. Liam forced himself to reciprocate, his heart heavy with the weight of what he knew. "Hey, how was work?" "Busy," she replied, kicking off her shoes. "It's been non-stop with the wedding so close." Her casual tone made Liam's blood boil, but he kept his expression neutral. "Yeah, I can imagine. Speaking of which, I wanted to talk to you about something." Mia froze for a split second, then recovered. "Sure. What's up?" Liam led her to the living room, where he had set the receipt on the coffee table. He sat across from her, his face unreadable. "Does the name Jason Miller ring a bell?" he asked, his voice calm but icy. Mia's eyes widened slightly, and she quickly looked away. Yeah. He's a coworker." "Why?" Liam slid the receipt across the table toward her. "Because I know you spent the night at the Orchid Hotel with him." Mia's face turned pale as she stared at the piece of paper. For a moment, she looked like she might deny it, but then she sighed and slumped back into the couch. "Liam, I can explain," she began, her voice trembling. "Don't bother," Liam interrupted. "I want the truth, Mia. All of it. How long has this been going on?" Tears welled up in her eyes as she admitted. "A few months. It started as just flirting at work. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Liam laughed bitterly. "You didn't mean for it to go this far? You were planning to marry me while sneaking off with him. That doesn't just happen, Mia." "I made a mistake," she pleaded. "It didn't mean anything. You're the one I love, Liam." "I swear." He stared at her, his anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have lied to my face." Mia reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Liam, please. We can get past this. The wedding is in 2 days. Let's not ruin everything we built." Liam stood abruptly, his fists clenched at his sides. "You already ruined it, Mia. And trust me, this wedding, it's not happening." Mia's tears turned to sobs as she realized the gravity of her actions. But Liam wasn't done. He had one final move to make, and it would ensure that she felt the full weight of her betrayal. Liam spent the night strategizing his next move, fueled by a mix of heartbreak and determination. He wasn't just going to cancel the wedding, he was going to make sure Mia understood the magnitude of her betrayal. The next morning, he called the venue, the caterer, and the florist to halt all preparations. Then he made one more phone call to Ava. "Ava, I need your help," Liam said, his voice steady but urgent. Ava hesitated on the other end of the line. "Of course. What do you need?" "I'm calling off the wedding, but I want Mia to face the consequences of what she's done. Can you meet me later to talk about it?" Ava agreed, and they met that afternoon at a quiet cafe. As they sat in a secluded booth, Liam laid out his plan. "This isn't just about me," Liam explained. Mia needs to see how her actions have hurt everyone involved. Ava nodded, her expression serious. So what's the plan? Liam leaned forward, his voice lowering. I want her to face everyone she lied to. Friends, family, everyone who thought this wedding was about love and trust. I want them to see the truth. Ava's eyes widened as she listened. Is it ever okay to snoop through your partner's phone? Write in the comments. You're going to tell them all at once? That's the idea, Liam said. At the rehearsal dinner. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for that evening, and everyone would be there. Mia's family, Liam's family, their closest friends. It was the perfect opportunity to reveal what Mia had done, and Liam was determined to make it unforgettable. He called the restaurant hosting the dinner and spoke to the manager, requesting a microphone for a special announcement. The manager agreed, unaware of what Liam had planned. As the evening approached, Liam dressed in his rehearsal suit, the irony of the situation not lost on him. Ava arrived at his apartment to help him finalize the details. Are you sure about this? She asked as he adjusted his tie. Liam nodded. She deserves this. They all deserve the truth. When Liam and Ava arrived at the restaurant, the room was already buzzing with excitement. Mia greeted him at the door, her eyes red and puffy but her smile forced. I'm glad you're here, she said softly, reaching for his hand. Liam pulled his hand away, his expression cold. Let's get through tonight, he said. Then we'll talk. Mia looked hurt but nodded, leading him into the room where their guests were gathered. The dinner began with laughter and toasts, the atmosphere warm and celebratory. Mia played the role of the glowing bride-to-be, her laughter echoing across the room as she chatted with guests. Liam, however, remained quiet, his mind focused on what was to come. When the main course was served, he stood, tapping his glass to get everyone's attention. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. I know this weekend is supposed to be a celebration of love and commitment. But before we go any further, there's something I need to share. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. Mia looked nervous, her smile faltering. Over the past few days, I've learned something that's changed everything for me, Liam continued. Something about the person I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Mia's face turned pale as she realized where this was heading. Liam, don't, she began, but he held up a hand to stop her. Let me finish, he said firmly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the hotel receipt, holding it up for everyone to see. This, he said, his voice rising, is proof that Mia has been cheating on me with her coworker, Jason. Gasps rippled through the room, followed by stunned silence. Mia's parents looked horrified, her mother covering her mouth with her hands. Liam's father shook his head in disappointment, while Ava sat silently, her gaze fixed on Mia. I trusted her, Liam continued, his voice cracking with emotion. I believed in her. And she betrayed me, not just as her fiancée, but as a person who deserved honesty and respect. Mia stood abruptly, tears streaming down her face. Liam, please, this isn't the place, no, Liam interrupted. This is exactly the place. These people deserve to know the truth about who you are. And as of right now, this wedding is off. Mia ran out of the room, sobbing, while the guests sat in stunned silence. Liam took a deep breath, his heart pounding, and looked around the room. I'm sorry for ruining the evening, he said, but I couldn't let this lie continue. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your support. With that, he left the restaurant, Ava close behind. The restaurant door swung shut behind Liam as he stepped into the cool night air. Ava caught up to him, her heels clicking against the pavement. Liam, she said, placing a hand on his arm. Are you okay? He turned to her, his face a mixture of exhaustion and relief. I don't know, he admitted, but for the first time in days, I feel like I can breathe. Ava nodded. You did what you had to do. She brought this on herself. The two stood in silence for a moment before Liam sighed. I just didn't think it would hurt this much. Inside the restaurant, the atmosphere was chaotic. Mia's parents were arguing in hushed but urgent tones, clearly mortified by the revelations. Liam's parents sat stoically, their expressions a mix of anger and sadness. Did you know about this? Mia's mother hissed at her husband. Of course not, he snapped back. This is as much of a shock to me as it is to you. Mia's father stood and addressed the remaining guests. I think it's best if we all leave. Thank you for coming tonight. We're sorry this had to happen. The guests murmured awkward goodbyes and filtered out, their whispers lingering like a cloud of judgment. Meanwhile, Mia had locked herself in the restaurant's restroom, her sobs echoing off the tiled walls. She clutched her phone, scrolling through the barrage of messages she had received from friends and family. Mom, we need to talk. Now! How important is honesty in a relationship? Write in the comments. Best friend. Mia, what the hell were you thinking? Coworker. Jason's been called into HR. Did you tell Liam everything? Her chest tightened as the weight of her actions came crashing down. She had been so careful, or so she thought. But now, her entire life was unraveling before her eyes. Liam didn't return home that night. Instead, he drove to his brother Caleb's house, knowing he needed the support of someone who truly had his back. Caleb opened the door with a look of concern. Liam? What's going on? It's over, Liam said simply, stepping inside. The wedding, the relationship, everything. I found out she's been cheating. Caleb's expression darkened. What? With who? Some guy from her office. Jason. Liam replied, sinking onto the couch. Caleb shook his head, his hands clenching into fists. I knew something was off about her. What can I do? Just let me crash here for a few days, Liam said. I need time to figure out what's next. Over the next few days, Liam's phone buzzed constantly with messages and missed calls. Most were from Mia, alternating between tearful apologies and desperate pleas to talk. Mia, Liam, please. Let me explain. I made a mistake, but I love you. Mia, you can't just throw everything away. We can fix this. Mia, please don't shut me out. I can't lose you. Liam didn't respond to any of them. He had nothing left to say. The fallout extended to Mia's workplace as well. Word of the affair had spread quickly, and Jason was called into a disciplinary meeting. Facing mounting pressure and whispers among his colleagues, he resigned within days. Mia's reputation was in shambles. Friends who had once rallied around her now distanced themselves, their trust in her eroded. A week later, Liam returned to their shared apartment to gather his belongings. He found Mia sitting on the couch, her face pale and hollow. You're here, she said softly, her voice filled with a mix of hope and fear. I'm just here for my stuff, Liam replied coldly. Liam, please, she begged, standing up. Don't do this. We can work through this. I'll do whatever it takes. He stared at her, his expression unyielding. You already had your chance, Mia. You threw it away. Her tears began to fall, but Liam turned away, heading to the bedroom to pack. As he left the apartment for the last time, Liam felt a strange sense of closure. He had loved Mia deeply, but that love had been built on trust, and she had shattered it beyond repair. Now, he was ready to move forward, leaving her betrayal behind. The weeks following the disastrous rehearsal dinner were a whirlwind of emotions for Liam. There were moments of anger, sorrow, and even relief as he began to process the betrayal and its aftermath. His days were spent finalizing the logistics of his new life, moving into a small but cozy apartment, sorting through belongings, and cutting ties with people who only reminded him of Mia. Mia had attempted to reach out repeatedly, leaving long, rambling voicemails and sending tearful texts. But Liam ignored every one of them. Her words no longer held meaning. Her actions had said enough. One evening, as Liam unpacked a box of books in his new apartment, his phone buzzed with a message from Ava. Ava. Hey, just checking in. How are you holding up? Liam stared at the screen for a moment before replying. Liam. Getting there. Thanks for asking. Ava responded quickly. Ava. If you ever want to grab coffee or just talk, let me know. You've been through a lot. Her words were simple, but they reminded Liam that he wasn't alone. A few days later, Liam took Ava up on her offer. They met at a quiet cafe in town, where the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. You look better, Ava said with a small smile as they sat across from each other. Better than what? Liam asked, raising an eyebrow. Better than a guy who looked like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, she said. Liam chuckled softly. Well, it's been a process, but I think I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. Ava nodded. You deserve to. What Mia did was unforgivable, but you've handled it with more grace than most people would. Grace? Liam said, laughing. I don't know if calling her out in front of everyone was graceful. It was honest, Ava countered. And sometimes, honesty is what people need, even if it's messy. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics, and for the first time in weeks, Liam found himself laughing freely. Ava's presence was comforting, a reminder that not everyone in his life was capable of betrayal. As they parted ways, Ava placed a hand on his arm. You're stronger than you think, Liam. Don't forget that. Her words stayed with him long after she'd left, a beacon of hope in the midst of his healing. Meanwhile, Mia's life continued to unravel. Word of her infidelity had spread far and wide, leaving her isolated and ostracized. Jason, her former lover, had disappeared from her life, leaving her to face the consequences alone. One day, Mia sent Liam one final message. Mia, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to say this. I'm sorry for everything. I ruined us, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I hope you find happiness, even if it's without me. Liam read the message and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just a quiet sense of closure. Months later, Liam found himself at a park, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. Ava sat beside him, their conversation flowing effortlessly as they shared stories of their lives. What's next for you? Ava asked, looking at him curiously. Liam thought for a moment, a small smile tugging at his lips. I don't know, he admitted. But for the first time in a long time, I'm okay with that. Ava nodded, her own smile soft and understanding. Sometimes, not knowing is the best part. It means anything is possible. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Liam felt a quiet sense of peace. The pain of the past had not disappeared, but it no longer defined him. He had faced the betrayal, endured the heartbreak, and emerged stronger. And for the first time, he was ready to embrace the possibilities of tomorrow.